Hey everyone, this is Mary Ann Pizzatola. I'm president of the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees, doing another story with a retired person from the city of New York who has a very unique story he'd like to share with you regarding how this Medicare Advantage plan had affected him and his decision to opt out. This is Robert Bentkowski. Robert is a retired New York City firefighter. His union is the UFA. And several years ago, Robert was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease, correct?
Correct.
And it is a disease in which his kidneys form these tumors that crush his kidney, and with the size of the kidney, puts pressure on his surrounding organs, and it becomes excruciatingly painful. And at some time, he was eligible for to be placed on the kidney transplant list, and then now he had this concern with this new Medicare Advantage plan coming into play, and is exactly how this would cover him, as he knew that with traditional Medicare and the GHI supplemental, that he would have been covered, and that they would not only have to cover his transplant, well, the testing for the transplant, and then the aftercare, the post-care. So
Yes.
I said that correctly, yes?
That's correct.
And here goes his struggle, because this is something that is obviously very painful. It causes him a lot of stress. And then the city and the unions were implementing this plan to auto enroll him into a plan that he didn't know would cover him. With that, tell me, you said something before about you try to do your due diligence in finding out if this plan would cover you like the traditional Medicare and supplemental would, and you contacted the 833 hotline, which they dubbed as the Concierge line, to try to get information. So what happened with that?
That's correct. Reading through the entire booklet online, they had a little asterisk that says that certain elements have to be pre-authorized. Well, I'm already on the transplant list. Now, if I switch over to the MEP program, do I have to be pre-authorized again? Do I just slide over? And I didn't know that. So I called the 833 hotline, spoke to the people. They were very kind, and they weren't able to answer that the first time. They said, call the hospital and see what they say. I called my hospital, and they said they never even heard of the program. They weren't 100% sure, and they'll try and get back to me. Well, waited a little longer. The deadline's getting closer. I made a second phone call inquiring. I said, this is really important for me, because if I get kicked out of the program because I'm not pre-authorized already, at the current rate, there is a 4 to 5 year waiting list. So my waiting time would have to restart again once I get authorization. So I pushed them. They pushed me over to a supervisor, and I explained my dilemma that I have all these problems. Could you give me an answer? Does it just slide right over? And they basically told me that, well, in order to give that information, we have to look at your records. And for that, you have to join us first. And then we'll let you know if we could authorize your kidney transplant when it comes around to it. And I was like, how am I supposed to join something where I don't even know if you're going to cover me or not cover me? Am I going to be on dialysis forever? I mean, there are so many questions that I don't have the answers until I actually join the plan. And how am I going to join a plan when I don't know what's going to be covered or not covered?
And that, and those are really valid points. So prior authorization, this is one of the things that this organization has been arguing, is that in traditional Medicare and supplemental, we do not have prior authorization. You'll hear the Alliance and the city saying, oh, well, there is authorizations in Medicare, but our version of doing this is better. We do it on the front end instead of the back end. But that's a lie. And I'm going to tell you how that's misleading. We'll tell everyone, because I'm sure you and I already know this story. So prior authorizations do not exist in traditional Medicare. Traditional Medicare, the physicians and Medicare have an agreement on how treatment modalities are to be presented. And there is authorizations, but it's typically on the back end. And if there's ever an issue, it is actually the provider that gets stuck with the bill, not the beneficiary, you or I, right? With Medicare Advantage, the reason that the prior authorizations are on the front end is because they're a for-profit insurance company. So it is to their benefit to limit care that they are authorizing in order to maintain their profits. Medicare makes something like 2 or 3% profit, where as an insurer is going to want to make about 20 to 30% profit. And how do they do that when they and Medicare would both be offering the same care? Well, they authorize the care that they have. So by denying you treatment or testing is how they save money. So you having to do prior authorization means that you would have to go through them as the gatekeeper to get those tests in the early stages of matching your transplant and aftercare to continuously be approved.
That is correct.
So this became your frustration. And then when they told you that, oh, you'd have to come into the plan in order to find out if we'll cover you, why would a normal, prudent, intelligent person take a risk to get into a plan that they don't even know will cover them, and now you're stuck in that plan until enrollment, and you could change?
Exactly. You would have to wait one additional year, and then that adds on to the other year, and then you go back to your original plan. And once you left, now do you get to go back into the plan, and do you still have the same spot? Do you lose your spot? Since I live in Florida, they changed the legislation. It used to be living donors first get the transplant from a living donor to the recipient, which would I be. If there is an available one, it would go to the next deceased person in line, would get the kidney. They changed the legislation, is no longer all of Florida. Now it's extended out to Georgia. So there's a lot more need for kidneys and a wider array to give out those. So in theory, it may even take longer, 4 to 5 years. It may take 5, 6, 7 years. And again, I mean, the pain is really debilitating. And it's on top of this, now I have to worry if I'm going to have coverage or not coverage. I mean, everybody's received the bill from the hospital after what the procedures are costing. You're like, oh my gosh, take a look at this. Now, what would happen? I have to be out of your pocket. In addition to that, I'm going to have to be on medications for the rest of my life, because if the transplant doesn't take, I still need medication. Now, is this plan going to take it? Again, there is no final answers from this Medicare Advantage program until you join, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And part of, I think too, what was important to mention is in the early days of this plan, the city was sending out enrollment booklets to try to educate retirees, and they looked similar to this booklet. This is an old booklet from January, and the reason why this is the old booklet is because they said that they had a global paper shortage and they couldn't mail out the new booklet. So you were fortunate enough to have found us, and we educated you to find those online Medicare enrollment guides. But even in the topic of prior authorization, and this is one of the things that the court sided with us on, was prior authorization notification must be delivered to a retiree. You must know what this plan was requiring for prior authorization. And they really fought back on that. They didn't want us to know. But I will tell you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 6 things that's on here, transplant is one of them, but it's only one of 6. And what we've covered was over 87 that they had to print in a supplemental document, to the retirees that were, and that was not a complete list. The evidence of coverage, which is usually a document that is not afforded to an enrollee until after you're enrolled. But in a situation like yours, and by the way, we were given a copy of the evidence of coverage, the EOC, by OLR, and then they very quickly took that down off the OLR website. And that didn't even spell out everything, even though that is supposed to be like a contract. You never got your booklet. And then trying to contact the 833 hotline, that was the city's concierge line for the Alliance, to learn about this plan, you still couldn't get any answers on your care. So why the city and the unions would be insisting that this plan is mirroring GHI senior care when you already have the answers for your Medicare and supplemental. You know what they will pay you or repay your physicians and provide care for you.
Right. Well, in addition, I mean, it's supposed to mirror this. Just to add to the story, my wife is in need of doctors. She also has some issues. She worked for the city for 27 years. And down here in Central Florida, trying to find doctors that are GHI, Emblem Health, and all that is difficult. Either they don't take it, or you go on their website, you go to the doctor, then all of a sudden the doctor quits. Well, if this is going to mirror that plan, what's going to happen down the line when everybody joins and everything collapses? This is a brand new plan, which nobody knows anything about. I hate to use this reference, but it's like the car commercials. You have these beautiful cars, but when you read the fine print, all it is when you come in, this $1995 car is the base price, but yet when they're showing you this magnificent plan, it's golden, it's got these diamonds and all that. Yes. But when you read the fine prints, it's basically not good. It may be good for a handful of people, but for the majority of people who are older and have medical issues, this is definitely not one of the best plans out there.
No, and you raise a really good point, and let me explain to people who are watching this exactly, fill in the details on that one. So in GHI senior care would be your supplemental. For your wife, it would be her GHI CBP, her comprehensive benefit plan. So in Florida, you're thinking it's the land of retirees. A lot of New Yorkers are down there. This is a GHI plan from New York. You should be able to use this plan anywhere, which is what, this plan says. And GHI is half the parent. Emblem Health is GHI. They're half the alliance. The other half is Blue Cross. So their logos are right there. Look. So now your wife, and you're not alone. Our treasurer lives in Naples, Florida. She can't find a gynecologist within 100 miles of Naples. So now you start to talk about retirees, non-Medicare eligible all around the country, and you're finding the same thing, that you cannot find physicians in a normal geographic region around where you live in half the parent of the Medicare Advantage Plan. How frustrating is that? And to expand upon that thought too, that is a frustrating thing because it causes retirees to either go out of network and experience more cost, or drive to another area an hour, 2 hours away, or go back to New York for care. Because I have retirees that are in Tennessee that do the same thing. They go to an area in Florida where there's a doctor, or they go back to New York for care. That shouldn't be the way that you take care of yourself in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm sorry. Well, at least with a younger spouse. That's just still an undue burden. And if in your situation where you're ill, how are you going to travel 100 miles with your spouse just to get to a doctor? That's ridiculous.
Exactly. I mean, just unfortunately, we just came out of a pandemic. Flights are up. Everything's difficult to get a hold of. My wife has to book a plane to New York, be out there for a week, see the doctors, and eventually fly back. And if they do confirm what she has, then she has to stay out there further. It's just a nightmare, this whole medical situation. They didn't make anything easier. Everything's 100 times more difficult than what it used to be. GHI Emblem Health used to be the cream of the crop, or one of the top tier for New York City medical.
Yeah.
Not anymore. It's nobody wants to take it, and I don't understand why. And if you do question the doctor's offices, they're like, well, basically they don't really cover, they don't pay out.
Yeah, we heard the same thing. And this is important for the unions to hear. So any locals, any New York City locals that are listening to this, your GHI plans, our GHI plans, are not covering non-Medicare eligible retirees outside the New York region. You have the ability, because we've seen the writing, that they are able to add in different geographic regions. We found one contract that they would only do it if it was under like a $3 million cap, which means they have the ability to do that. They're just not spending the money to do it. And if Emblem is not reimbursing at a decent schedule to keep doctors in the network, they're decimating the network from within. And I don't even know how to dub it other than to say it's intentional. Because if they know that this is happening, because if you check their provider guide, just like the online provider guide for here, you'll find doctors that are in the network, and then you call them and they're like, nope. We had a retiree last week that said, oh yeah, well, if they're not in, just have them call us, we'll remove them. No, lady, why don't you call them and find out why they're not happy with you and not taking the plan?
Right.
So more stress for a retired person. Those are two very valid retiree issues that I hope our unions listen to. I think that this you've exposed two issues today, that you can't opt into a plan, even though it's free. They're saying the plan will cost $7.50 this year, but after 2023, it's a free plan. But if it's free and it still doesn't cover you, it offers you no value.
Well, also, getting back to the plan, it's the little stuff that they don't mention. Again, the Silver Sneakers program, you have to be within a certain area. The transportation, you have to be within a certain mileage of that.
Yeah.
If you don't fall within those categories, it's basically useless. So again, the city's paying for stuff that maybe a half or maybe more are not even eligible for this.
And you know what? All of those things you need pre-authorization for. The transportation you don't need pre-authorization for, but and the Silver Sneakers either, but you will need pre-authorization for those meals delivered to your house or the healthy pantry. You have to have a certain body weight and an A1C. If you don't have that, and you have to have a qualifying event like being discharged from the hospital. So if you don't have that, so those kinds of things are crazy. The geographic location with the trips, that's absolutely true. And I want to say you have to call 48 hours in advance to make the reservation. It has to be, I believe, within 30 miles. So if your doctor is outside the 30-mile range, you're not able to go there. And there's a lot of people in more rural areas, let's say Long Island, and you want to go to, New York City for your doctor. I was listening to a CEA, NYPD CEA video from the early days of this, and the gentleman that did it was Marlon Pavone from the Alliance, said, oh yeah, she says, why I want to go to, Memorial Sloan Kettering, can I take the Uber? She said it was an Uber ride. And the guy said to her, no, it's, Marlon says, it's not an Uber, it's an exception ride. And kind of brushed over it. But the fact of the matter is Long Island to New York City is more than 30 miles. So the short answer of that would have been no, but that's not how he framed it to her. So you bring another valid point. So thank you for that one. But yeah, just because they're perks or benefits don't mean that they'll benefit every retiree. So I'm still giving up something. You're still giving up something. Yeah, good points. Good points. Well, I think you've informed a lot of people today, brought up some very important things. Is there anything you want to add in closing?
No, I thank you for your time. And this is kind of shameless plug, but down the road, a lot of people do need some type of transplants. I mean, the two police officers who were murdered in New York City, their families had donated their organs to other people. Just food for thought down the line that there's a lot of people in America, people in the city and all that do need organs for donation. So just to keep in your back of the mind, if you possibly could donate, I really appreciate it.
That's absolutely fine. I appreciate that message. And there are many ways for people to do that. Make sure if you do elect it, you can even do so through your driver's license. That way, in case something happens, that they know that you're a donor. Very important. And let your families know as well that that is your wish. That way they can help expedite those wishes come true, especially because there is a very delicate time frame from the time someone expires until that they can absolutely do those procedures.
Yes.
So not shameless. That's an honorable thing to ask. So thank you for that. And we wish you well and hope that everything goes your way. We'll keep you in our prayers, and I ask everyone else to do the same, and that your time comes up on that list, that you are able to secure a kidney and have that surgery and it goes well. So keep us posted, and if there's anything we can do to help you, you let us know.
Sure, and thank you for all your help. I mean, you're a godsend. Thank you.
We love you too. We have a good team here. So it's stories like this that's important, because all the unions think that this was a great plan and they were just so focused on saving the stabilization fund. They really didn't know the nuances of this plan and how it would affect individuals like yourself and the other retirees that we did stories about. And we will continue to do this because we think that they need to be educated, and as do the other retirees that think, oh, it's just not so, it's not bad, or oh, it's free, or oh, I'm just going to do it because my union tells me to. You really need to do your due diligence, and you clearly showed that you did that. For as much stress and discomfort that you were in, you still took the time to make sure that you could absolutely do this. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. So we'll end this here until next time, folks. Click subscribe to our channel, and you can register for our videos. If you subscribe, you'll get our notification every time we put up a new one. You can sign up for notifications. That way you can hear more stories when we do interviews like this, like with people with Robert. So on that note, thank you very much for listening, everyone, and have a great day.